some might say the way FATF was established to operate and the way that it is currently operating are no longer, there's now a divergence. There's your core and headline inflation divergence taking place. Would there be any truth to that? In other words, meaning that East and West geopolitical stuff is starting to interfere with whether you go on the grade list or go off the grade list. Is the grade list starting to be used as a disciplining factor in this geopolitical dance that is taking place?
So, global institutions are very strange animals, and they're complex animals. So, and I say this having been a global bureaucrat for a long time. I still am one to a large extent. Everywhere there are politics. There are politics in your organizations, and it is that way also. And as you know, there is this issue of influence that is there. And I think that this time FATF would be unique if it hadn't been affected by what is happening geopolitically. However, we don't have a choice as jurisdictions, because their grey listing still has got meaning. There are these dynamics that have to be debated and corrected in terms of what it is that we're doing, because the membership is the one that votes. The membership is the one that pronounces. The market is the one that utilizes that information. So regardless of what our views around fairness or different things, the reality is this is a measure that is used. Are you on a grey list? Are you on a black list? But there are these tensions that are there that are emerging, particularly at present. How do you define specific things? And there is a school of thought that says, well, maybe the West is too hard on certain things. And when we look at how do we define what is illicit, there are these interpretations that keep changing quite regularly. But on the whole, I would say that the original intentions within FATF still remain. We need to be watchful of certain things. We need to be cautious of certain things, even aside from the FATF grey list. So I want to use one very simple and practical example. So one of the FATF requirements is that when you are banking someone, you need to be aware of who that someone is, how do they get their income, and you need to vet them differently. And they have a label for people like me, I don't like to use it, politically exposed individuals.
So you shop at Peps stores?
Yeah, I shop at Peps stores. And I have to enforce this concept of Peps. So how do Peps and how can Peps exert undue influence? And we know that in multiple jurisdictions, there have been illicit activity that has been perpetrated by or enabled by Peps. And so these are things, they are in the FATF standards. But having lived in South Africa, having lived through state capture, you can say, with or without FATF, it's important for us to understand these dynamics and what it is that we are picking up.
And yet, it seems like our last question on grey listing, the one place or the one stakeholder that is likely to possibly move us into the blacklist is our ability to prosecute for the state capture criminals, for example. Are you in a position to give us an update based on what's in the public domain about your level of confidence in the remaining period before we are considered either off the grey list or onto the blacklist, so to speak, about the progress that you see us making as a country?
Unfortunately, that is the one question. I can answer lots of questions. That is the one question I'm unable to answer.
I thought you would walk into that one.
Yeah. No. Unfortunately, I can't answer. But certainly, if what I can say is that we have got this interdepartmental committee that is chaired by the Treasury, and we are working through the individual items on the grey list. Yes, there are capacity challenges, and we are working with other private sector colleagues. We're looking for mechanisms on how do we assist on the side of the prosecutions, on the side of investigations. But we also have to be mindful, when you run a process like this, it's not as simple as me coming to say to GIBS, help us here. GIBS may well be implicated. You yourself may well be implicated. And have to.
Do you know something I don't know?
I don't know something. But I'm just saying that this is the broad context. When you receive help as a state, you have to find these balances around the issues that you're going to be investigating, who you might be investigating because you don't know.
Yo, Mudim. So, I'd like to go back to savers because, as you can see, I've lost a lot of hair, which means I'm on the other side of the debtors-savers equation. When you're looking to balance the equation around, is it inflation or interest rate? Is it really a balance, or is there a part of the stakeholder economy that you feel needs to be protected a lot more than the other?
We have an inflation target, and we seek to be within that target. So as the SARB, remember the inflation target band is wide. We have, our assessment has led us to believe that the midpoint is best for us. We think that it's a good start. We would like to see inflation even lower than the midpoint over the longer term. Because if we look at our trading partners, they have inflation lower than ours. What does it mean if our trading partners have inflation lower than ours? Is that already our prices are too high. It takes us out of the competitive space. The second reason is the erosion of income, which I touched on earlier. So we do not focus on interest rates. We focus on where is inflation and what will it take to get inflation to the midpoint of the inflation target. And I hope in a few years when I come to visit, we'll be talking about, the lower end of the target. But the interest rate conversation, I can't stress more. It is the second order conversation. You get there because of what's happening to inflation, and this is your primary tool.